Hello and welcome to my channel. In this Canvas Workspace video, I'll show you how to make a custom-made square box with a flip lid. And it can be made from just one 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. Now I am going to throw in a few extras such as mats for those of you who might want to mat the sides and lid of your box, and a few other ideas for the decoration, including the lid of the box. Now, some of the processes that will be included in this video are the XY axis, using the path tools to edit the nodes. We'll also be doing some alignment and welding and creating perforation lines, among others. So if you want to learn how this is done, then stick with me and I'll show you how. I'm in Canvas Workspace and this is the download version. Now the box is constructed of two rectangles, one horizontal and one vertical. To determine the width of the horizontal and then the height of the vertical, we'll start with a square of our choice. And the default for this is 3.94, but that's a very difficult number to work with when working out how wide and how high this box needs to be. So let's just make this more manageable by changing this to 2.5 inches. Now you can use 2 inches, 3 inches, 1 inch, whatever you like, just as long as you're able to easily work out the mass on this. So because I have maintain aspect ratio still clicked here, when I hit return, it's going to give me a 2.5 inch square. And I'm going to bring some color into that. And I'll make a couple of duplicates, maybe 3. And we'll put those off to the side to work with later. So, how this box is constructed is, imagine this is the bottom, would have a side here, you'd have a side here, you'd have a side here, and you'd have a side here. And then, because we want to have a lid, we'll have to have another square off to the right in this case, or you could have it off to the left if you wanted, but off to the right. So that means we have to have the equivalent of 4 of these 2.5 inch squares across. And then down, we'll need 1, 2, 3. So let's start with the horizontal. And we're going to calculate that, which is 2.5 times 4, which is 10. Now you could just drag it yourself if you like, or unclick the maintain aspect ratio and type in the value of 10. And you have your horizontal rectangle. Now for the vertical rectangle, we'll start with, of course, the 2.5 inches, and the height in this case is going to be 2.5 times 3, which is 7.5. And again, you can pull it down manually or go in and change the height to 7.5. Then you will need to overlap these so that you have a 2.5 inch square here, 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 and of course the top and bottom. Now, there are various ways that you can determine how to get to the point that you need before you weld this together. And the first one I'll show you is using the XY axis as a guide. So I want to start with the horizontal, and I'm going to put it up in the corner. It's easiest to work with it in the corner. So that means the x and the y have an equal value of 0 and 0. Then I can bring in my vertical, and as I said, I know it needs to be 2.5 inches from the left. So that means my x-axis will be, or axis I should say, is 2.5 inches. And if I want to center that, I've got a couple of choices as well. I could make sure that I have an equal amount on either side by putting in the equivalent on the y side, only of course in this case it has to be negative 2.5, and it's placed it centrally and with the correct distance from the left. The other way to do this would be to again put this on the x-axis at 2.5, and then select both of those rectangles and go to the alignment tool and select middle, and it will put it in that very same position for you. Now, just something I'll point out to you very quickly is you want to be sure if you want to use those XY values, that this is a true vertical rectangle and not simply a horizontal one that you copied and then turned 90 degrees to make it into a vertical, because the XY value will still assume that it is a horizontal shape rather than a vertical shape. And I'll show you here very quickly the difference. So if I just give that a little different color, and we'll assume that it's the same as that one was before. Change the size to 7.5, and change the angle to 90 degrees, and now it is 90 degrees and a vertical rectangle. But when you see, if we place it on top of the one there, let's bring it to the front here. You look at the values, they're not the same anymore, because again, it's treating this as though it is a horizontal object. So that's just a quick little tip for you, and I hope that made sense. So I'm going to delete that. Now, there is another way that you can determine how to place this, and what I'm going to do is just make a duplicate of this. I'll bring it over here, change the color of it. And what you can do in this case is use one of your squares as a measuring tool, where you can place it here to the very left of this horizontal rectangle. So you would select those two and align them to the left, and then either to the bottom or to the top, doesn't really matter, but you've got it in the correct position. So that shows you where you need to place your horizontal or your vertical piece. So this is your vertical piece here. All right, so you would make sure that you had that up against this piece here. So the best thing to do would be to try to zoom in and get it into place. Oops, let's try that again. Okay, and then you would select, let's get that out of the way, you'd select these two and align them in the middle. And as you can see, we have a similar result to this one here. I'll just zoom out a bit. You can see the results. Let's just go ahead and delete this. Move that over. Let's weld this together. So highlight both of the rectangles and go to Process Overlap and Weld. And there you have the foundation for your box. Now, of course, we have to have some way to put this together. So we need glue tabs, and we need tabs for the lid that will allow us to tuck that into the sides. So I'm going to use this square to form these tabs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze that in, and I'm going to change the color as well. And I'm going to resize this. And I'm going to have it about 1/2 inch. So I'll have it maybe just a little over 1/2 inch. You can make yours whatever size you like. And then, of course, it will still remain 2.5 inches. And what we want to do is, for these flaps, they work much better if they are angled so that they don't bunch up on corners or actually maybe even hang past the joint. So you could either attach them as the rectangles that you see here, or angle them. And if you attach them as the rectangles, once you get your piece cut out, then you could, of course, just go in with your scissors and make your angle cuts. But if you want to have those already in place, this is how you would do it. And this takes us to the path editing tool. So we're going to click on the inside of this shape because we're in Canvas Workspace. When you click on the inside of a shape, you'll see the path editing tools will appear across the toolbar here. So what we want to do is we want to change these nodes. We could start here or we could start over here. It doesn't really matter. So we want to angle that. That means we would grab this node here, and it's blue, and just bring it down however we like. But if you're a bit uncomfortable with that, or in this case where you think it's, oh, maybe it's a little bit wobbly, I'm not too sure, all you have to do is do it manually by clicking that node and then forming the angle. So in this case, we're going to go down. So using the arrow keys on your keyboard, click as many times as you want in order to form the size of the angle. So I'm going to use mine. So I'm going to make mine sort of a medium sort of angle. So I'm going to count out 10 clicks. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was the down arrow. For the other side, I need to go the opposite direction. So click on that node and use the up arrow and click 10 times again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as I said, you could make it a sharper angle or a narrow angle. And so now we have our tab. Now these tabs are going to go onto the sides and onto the lid. And you can choose where you want yours to go. I'm going to bring that to the front. I'm just going to zoom out a bit. So you could have them this side, and then this side, and this side. But what I'm going to do is have them off to the side here. And then I'll have one over here, another one on this side, and one on this side. And then when I come to the lid, I'm going to have one here. So that will be the front flap. And then I'll have one that's going horizontally here at the top and at the bottom. So let's just go ahead and make duplicates of this to make our life a little easier so we don't have to keep drawing that all over again. So we'll do five of these because we know we want one there and we want one here, here, and over here. And then I can duplicate this one. And now I will flip that, not to 0, change the angle on it to 90 degrees. Oops. Okay. And we'll need to flip it as well so that we have there we are. So we have one angling that way, one angling that way. This needs to be flipped as well so that it comes out this way, like so. Do the same here. That's going to go there, that one will go there, this one will go here, and then this one is going to go here. Flip that. And so now we can just zoom in and let's place these into position. So I'm going to keep that on top because I can see a little better how much of an overlap there is. I just need a very small amount. And I'm going to place that like so. And I'm going to go to this side. Do the same here. You could always use the arrow keys if I needed to nudge it just a bit. So what I'm going to do now is to zoom out. And I'm going to go ahead and weld these so that I can see that I've got the overlap, right, and everything is looking good. So we'll go to Process Overlap and weld that, and it did, it welded. So now we can do the same with these. To go back and change that color. So just sort of place those there for now. And I'll zoom back in. Let's see if we can, oh, we need to bring that to the front. Okay, there we are. So I'll zoom back out again. And I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to weld it. There we are. Let's change that color back again. Now, we can inspect this a little closer to see how well we've got these aligned. So the way to do that, and I covered this a bit in an earlier video on working with nodes and editing them. So if you just click in there again, check here to see if you have any additional nodes that maybe, there's just sort of stray ones. So if they didn't have a line connecting to them, they are superfluous. So that one looks really good. We're going to do the same on this one. And again, that one looks also very good. So we don't really need to work with those at all. If we did, all we would have to do is click on the node that was an additional node and hit the delete, or the delete the point, and then that will just make it a much smoother cut. Right, now let's go over to the other side where the lid is, and we're going to do the same here. So let's go in and we'll line these up, and we'll go through that same process once more. And once these are welded, we'll check on how well the nodes are. So place that one there. All right. The next thing we are going to need to do is to put in our perforation lines, or our score lines. Now, if you wanted to, you could just you could put these in manually using your scoreboard. Just measure them out, and you could do it that way. Or in this case, I'm going to put them in now. So it means that we need score lines here and here, here and here, and we need them on these sides as well. Plus we need them here and inside here for the bottom part. So let's start by bringing in our path tool, and if you click on the shift key, hold it down, and then double click, then you'll have a straight line. If you have difficulty doing that, what you can do is go to your artboard tab and click on snap to grid, and you can draw a line and it will keep it straight for you. You just need to be sure that you click that back off before you want to go in and do any editing. So I'll just get rid of that one for now. And because this is going to be a score line, we need it to be a perforation, so we'll go to our properties, to the dash pattern, and I'm going to select the third one down. And I can actually go in here and resize this to maybe 2.48, something like that. It could be 2.5, it doesn't really matter, but it doesn't have to go all the way to the edge. And now we're going to place this here. Now if you need another guide as to where to place those perforation lines, then bring in another square. We will resize this to 2.5. Okay. What we'll do is we'll place it here along the top, like so, and we know our line needs to go here then. So just grab this. We will go ahead and start making some copies of it. Move out of the way here. Let's grab these and move them off to the side. So just have an idea there. So it's actually where those angles are. I'm going to place this. And we'll have it just about there. What we can do is we can extend that what I'm going to do is go to the layers and lock this down so it doesn't move about on us. And we're going to drag that down like so. So you can do them individually or you can do them like this. Okay, and then we'll duplicate that and come here with this one here. Right, then we're going to need another one here and here, so we can just flip these over Just change the angle. We'll place that along there and here as well. Right. Then we're going to repeat that for the lid. So again, I'll use this square as a measuring tool. So I can bring that in here. I'll zoom in just a moment. We'll make sure we place that a bit better. Okay. Let's get this into position. So send that to the back just for a moment. So you can grab that. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. And I need to duplicate that and change the angle back to 90. Just nudge that a bit. That one looks all right. Okay. So we can now group all of these, and before we do that we need to go back to layers and unlock the box shape. Okay, and then we can send that to the machine with the score lines in place. Now if you were going to hand score these, of course you wouldn't have these perforation lines in place, but if you wanted the option, say you wanted to send it over with the score lines and then decide whether at that point you wanted to cut them out or go and use your scoreboard, don't group them. Okay, don't group them, just send these, still have them on here like so, but you won't group them together. But I'm going to group them, so you can see I've got all these score lines which are represented by this inner blue bounding box, and then the outer one is the rest of the box. I'm going to group that. and then that would be ready to go. Now, if I wanted to add some mats to this, I've got this here that I can bring to the front, and I can resize this, and I'm going to resize this to 2 1/4. So that's a good mat size. If I want to mat these sides or the lid or whatever. So I've already got that ready. Of course, if I wanted to wait, I could just create a square that is 2 1/4 inches on my machine, and I don't even have to send it over with this file. Another idea I had for the lid is, let's go ahead and duplicate this for a moment. I'll give it a different color. Okay. I could actually have a cutout here. So if I wanted to do that, let's pick a shape for that. Maybe this hexagon would be nice. And let's just reduce that in size. I'll place it here for now, just to get the dimensions. And I also want to have a frame for this. So to do that, I'll go to the bottom of the edit page and go to offset. And I'm going to bevel this outward. Okay, so I could have a frame. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight that and select divide, because that will leave me that shape. So I've got this available. I can make a frame, and of course I've got this that I'm going to cut out of here. Now I can just sort of eyeball it where I want. Okay, that looks pretty good. Of course, I could bring in another square. That is 2 1/2 inches. So that I could make sure that was centered. What I do is go off to the side here. And let's align this. I'm going to bring this into here. There we are. Then I can just get rid of that. And now I want to cut this out. Now, remember I said this is grouped. I cannot cut this out if this has these open paths, which are what these score lines are. So if I try to do that now by highlighting it and going to process overlap and subtract, I get this error message telling me that there are open paths or self-intersecting paths. So those lines are not actual shapes, they're just paths. So what I've got to do first is go back, ungroup this, then select the shape that I want to cut through or punch through, and then click on the box shape, and now go to subtract and it will go through. So if I send that to the back now, I can go back and group all of this together again. And as you'll see, when I bring this in, it would fit here on top, like so. So I've got a couple of options here. I'm just going to move that out of the way. I can delete that now. Now, at this point, I might want to have a larger box than I've got now, because when I place this on the mat, you see I've got a little more room. Also, if I were to rotate it, sometimes I can get even more room. What I would do is go ahead, and of course I need to be sure that didn't mean to delete that. I need to group these together. Okay, and now I can resize this, rotate it, and see if it's going to fit. It's not, so I'm going to just work with it until I can get it inside of this cutting area. So that gives me a little bit of room there. So if I look at this now, this is nearly 3 1/4. So that means these are 3 1/2. We'll just see if we can get it close to that. I think I'll just go back and keep what I had. Let's go back to 3 1/4. So just use the undo and redo keys. And there we are. So now I can send this onto to my machine, ready to cut out. I could have this one as well. Of course, I would want to save these, and then I can, of course, make a separate file for this, or what I can do, in fact, is just go into my layers, and I'm going to hide or lock down anything I don't want to send to the machine. So I don't want to send that. I don't want to send that. And I don't want to send this group. Okay, so that is that is what that is. So the only thing I'm going to be sending over at this point is the purple box and the mat. So if I send this to my machine, export it, and it says that I need to be aware that the lock and unlock on the data will be invalid when editing the data on the machine. So it's actually not going to send that. It's only going to send this piece that you see here. Okay, somewhere outside the dashed areas. So I need to actually, let's go back and let's unlock everything here. Unlock all. Okay, and now I'm just going to group that. Be a lot easier to deal with it. I can actually put it inside of here, and now I can lock it down. So the only thing left is this. So I'll go to File, export it, and now I can transfer that. So when I get to the machine at the other end, the only thing that's going to show up is this. So let's do that now, and we'll put together our box. I've cut out the pieces for our box, and now I'm just going to fold and burnish along these score lines. And there is our little box, complete with a sentiment as well. Thank you very much for all of you who have joined me today, and I do hope that you will give this a try in Canvas Workspace. And once you've made this pattern, then it's yours to keep for as long as you need it. Another thank you to my subscribers for your loyalty, and also to anyone who's not already subscribed to the channel. Please consider doing so today. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future uploads. Your interaction with this channel ensures that YouTube takes notice and makes my videos available for more people to enjoy. Well, at least I hope you're enjoying it. So, until next time, please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.